anime rage. You know that feeling when you just finish a season and it's like, that was a thing. In fact, it was a really bad thing. It was a horrible thing. Why did I watch this thing? Dear God, did I just spend my life watching this? What the absolutely... That feeling. Now, if you haven't had it before, you lucky son of a bitch. I'm not jealous. I'm not jealous. Just repressing that. But everyone who's not you apparently knows that exact feeling. So today we're going to look at that, and I'm just going to go through my top 5 anime rage moments. This isn't just going to be shows that were bad and you stop watching immediately. This isn't just going to be shows that are really, really bad. And I'm talking School Days level bad. We're not even mentioning that one because you know that's a shit show throughout. You don't have any expectations other than pain. So it's excused because you know what you're getting into. It's your fault at that point. No, we're going to be looking at 5 shows that are bad, horrible, painful, but they're just good enough that you endure it and you force yourself to keep watching until you realize you made the wrong choice. This is 5 Anime Rage. If you don't know, I'm Airier, and I'm going to be the person subjecting you to this list. Now, this is a personal list for me, and I will try not to spoil it, but, yeah, I'm going to fail because when I get really pissed off about anime, I start being honest. Honesty usually comes with giving the exact reason why. So be warned, this is probably going to be very spoiler heavy. Yeah. First up, we're going to set this bar really low. Gundam Seed Destiny. Now, Gundam Seed was fine, had some good moments and bad moments, and just generally fun. It's a Gundam show. Expect the melodrama. Then you have Gundam Seed Destiny, the sequel to Gundam Seed, which really had a lot of promise, and it had a lot of characters you like coming back, and it had some interesting plot hooks, and then it used none of it. They didn't even kill off the main character or put him on a bus. They just ignored the main character of the first series, and then they just kind of had an entire season of, hey, let's just have a lighthearted show about kids in a war. It's Gundam. It was painful. I'm not going to stay on this one too long because it's just a good starting point for rage. Gundam Seed Destiny, if you know what it is, it had promise. It had an interesting beginning. It showed you the main character's sort of best friend from the previous series as the main character for this one. And it was cool seeing how they interacted, how they were building up the other side, looking at the people who worked in the system, trying to work through it, seeing what would happen after the peace was established, after the Gundam series had been done in the first series. And then they just halfway through decide, oh, hey, wait, everyone hates this because we're not making an interesting show and the main character is bland. The people around him are annoying if they have that much characterization. And the one guy who's interesting, you don't care about anymore because the rest of the show has killed his character. To the point where if they had actually killed him off, it would have been nicer. I might sound like I'm a little upset. Yes, I am. It got better when they brought the main character from the first season back, and then they just basically redid the first series in the second half of this anime. But even then, it's one of those, oh, we fucked up, we need to fix this moments. Kira Yamato would have either been better dead or as the main character from the beginning. Because the main character of the first half of the series didn't really just... Goose Fraba. Just keep it down, Airier. Just try not to strangle the imaginary neck of a TV show because it doesn't have one. I mentioned this in Anime Rage. I wasn't lying. That's the first entry. First. And honestly, as much as I hate to say this, the least enraging out of all 5. Yeah. This is the one out of all of these I liked the most and regretted the least. Because even though it had so many issues, and wasted huge amounts of goodwill, it was still, by the end, a general fun show. It had big explosions, cool mechs, More melodrama in the, honestly, Gundam style at this point. If you don't expect that and kind of actually enjoy it a little, you probably aren't a fan to start with. But it was at least a decent ending, even if it was less. It was a decent show. It was just less than the first one. But you could kind of enjoy it because it still had cool fights. Yeah, I'm saying that on the record. Gundam Seed Destiny is the best anime on this list, in my opinion. And saying that does cause me physical pain. Next up, we have a very, I was going to say interesting anime, because that's usually what you say when you have nothing nice to say about something. You just want to say a word. But no, this is a giant piece of shit. We're looking at Gilgamesh. This is a giant pile of 90s style dark grunge with that 2000s general, we need to make everything really beautiful, but also really depressing and really dark and kind of boring. Because boring, dark, and depressing shows how edgy we are. It's like being an edgelord without any actual edge. It's just like a flat, empty plane of boredom. Which, I should add, is how the show ended. If that doesn't make sense, honestly, I wouldn't recommend looking it up because it's actually very painful. But let's back up a step. This show is about magical beings, not actually magical, in a magical world that's not really magical, I'm just saying it because it's annoying to me, where they're all trying to figure out why is everything shit? Why is there a ceiling? Why is the ceiling falling? And how do we survive the apocalypse? Spoiler! They don't. One of the characters decides, hey, this is good, let's all die. And by the end of it, I hate everyone so much, I'm rooting for them all to die too, because fuck them. Every single person in this was a giant pile of I don't care at best. This is a very nihilistic show. You feel hopeless, helpless, and generally bored because it's slow moving too. It's like all the empty moments of Evangelion and all the depression of Evangelion without anything that made Evangelion interesting. Sure, there were fights. They were boring. Sure, there was characterization of the cute girl. They were boring. Sure, there was massive bloodshed. Except none of the really actually more just dissolving at the end, but whatever. Cool lore, cool setup, cool everything. And by the end, you don't care because it all comes down to the sky is falling. When it touches you, you stop being person. Matter doesn't exist when the sky falls. And there's no way to stop it, and it happens, and that's it. There's more to it, but let's be honest, that's where everyone cared, that's where everyone stopped, and that's where the show kind of ended. I'm spoiling this one because if you don't watch it, I'm doing you a favor. If you like slow, depressing draws that make Violet Evergarden look like a happy, lucky show, okay, seek help. 2, okay, 1, Violet Evergarden was awesome. That level of depression was actually made up for by the fact that it was just awesome. This show, though, wasn't. It was slow-moving, plotting. The characters were annoying at best, and I'm going to say that a lot. Annoying at best. It wasn't even just that I didn't care about them. It's that I was actively against them. Everybody sucked. And the few times you got an idea of, hey, maybe something good will happen to redeem the show. No, it was just a solid level of why am I watching this? And in my case, it's because they just put a few little feelers in there. It's like, ooh, hey, this looks really good and it's beautifully animated. I will give it this. It was beautifully animated. It just happened to be they beautifully animated the color gray. Sin City, the movie, had more color. And I realized that was black, white, and a couple splashes of red. And those blacks and whites were still better if they didn't have the red in there. This is literally gray colors the anime. Okay, actually, because I'm talking about this, I'm remembering more about it. And I'm kind of regretting putting it so low on the list. But hey, I put it here already, so yeah, this is number 4. Next up, we have an anime that I have very mixed feelings about. This is Blue Gender. This is an older anime, 90s, 80s style, hand-drawn. Honestly, they gave a lot of budget to just the animations in here. It's a very beautifully drawn series. The voice acting is, nothing to write home about, but I also don't mind it in the slightest. The problem is, the entire show is also massively fatalistic. I will now summarize the entire show. Man is running from bugs. Man goes into coma. Man wakes up. Bugs are trying to eat him and everything else. Humanity has abandoned the Earth to live in the space station. Humanity is a bunch of useless fucks who honestly would have been better off if they had let the bugs eat them. Because literally everyone in the entire show is a useless, self-absorbed, arrogant piece of shit who barely counts as human. The bugs have more human characteristics, and I don't think they had any. By the end of it, you're rooting for the bugs to win, and that actually isn't why this show enrages me so much. It was just nice enough to think that maybe the main character will fix the world, or maybe he'll escape a horrible situation, or maybe he'll find some peace, and you're actually rooting for the guy because even though he's kind of a bland protagonist who doesn't really do anything, he's very much the bland protagonist who you got used to in a lot of anime where they had no personality, except in this one, his personality was shell shock, which in any other anime would actually be a horrible idea, but this one, that's actually very relatable because that's how the audience feels, shell-shocked. So he's a very good usage of that. This anime just feels like shit. But there's little moments here and there where it's like, wow, he's improving them. He's actually making a difference. It's getting better. He's helping. We're going to see them redeemed. Something good will happen. Nope. Every step of the way, every step forward, they take a dozen back, and you just feel the absolute crushing brutality of it, because even when it's not that bloody, not that gory, they have those moments, but it's not always there. You just feel like it is hopeless, and you're subjected to that constantly. That is not why I hate this anime. This is not why I'm raging at this anime, because honestly, I like this anime, and that's why I'm enraged, because it just dropped the breadcrumbs, just a few breadcrumbs of hope to make you think there might be an interesting ending in this. And then they get to the last episodes and they achieve it. And even though they've given up and accepted their fate and the people are finally on the earth after most of everyone in space who just gave up died because they can't stand their own lives and they just fucked it up, the few people who decided to let's go down and live like a human being without being afraid, just to know they're going to die and be fatalistic, but goddamn, they're actually going to go out as an actual person rather than just a sorry sack of depression. And they actually made a choice even knowing how pointless it is, but then they are actually living for once in the entire show. And you feel great, and then it ends. It's not even a matter of, we achieved something that's melodramatic, sad. No, it's a matter of, yeah, this is great. I'm now going to go die in a cave. And it's not really going to matter, and you kind of feel like, did the show just end when the prologue finally ended? Because that's what it feels like. It feels like, hey, there should have been a second season talking about the survivors finally eking out a new planet because they finally came through it. Because that was how it ended. It's like, hey, there's finally hope. It's not even bullshit hope. You actually have it. And the main character's dead. The show ends. Like, unrelated, which just kind of happened. It made sense. It wasn't handled badly. I don't really mind how they ended it. I'm just enraged that by the only time I was like, yes, I want to see what happens next. Not just, I'm going to suffer through to see what happens next. But I was finally engaged, and then it ended. Blue Gender decided to just blue ball the audience every step of the way. And right at the end, right where you're like, this is actually fun. I like this. I want to know what happens, and it's over. Blue Gender is one of the few anime on this list I will actually recommend watching. Because for all its brutality and inhuman bullshit, and I don't mean the enemies, I mean the people are inhuman bullshit. Despite that, this is a show that really does effectively dangle hope in front of you. But they just dick around with you every step of the way. That is number 3 on this list. And honestly, I probably should have put it below Gilgamesh because it's better than that, honestly. But I just remember feeling so much rage when I watched it. And I still feel it now just remembering it. So yeah, I would actually recommend watching this, but don't go into there thinking good things are going to happen. They do, but they earn way more than what they get. Next up, we have number 2, Ergo Proxy. Now this show had an amazing intro. The musical scores on this were beautiful. I'm actually still impressed with the first few episodes of this entire series. It was amazing, which is also why I absolutely rage over this anime. It's not that they were bad. It's that they had so much promise and they showed you every step of the way in the very first episodes. They knew how to construct a mystery with interesting characters and dark visuals. They took the gray of Gilgamesh and they made it fascinating and dark and mysterious and scary. You were actually on the tip of your seat, the very edge, wondering what the hell's going to happen next, and I loved it. And then they dropped the ball. Actually, no, that's too nice. They didn't drop the ball. They took the ball. They coated it in semi-liquid feces, added a little extra fresh just for effect, and decided to slather it around their feet, kick it into a hole, bury it into a hole, then jump into the hole with it, and then just rub it all over themselves. That is what they did to the ball. They desecrated it. You can tell I have issues with this one. I know, on an anime rage show about this, you think I'd be less enraged. Well, no, I was being very honest about this. This is a very rage-inducing anime. The problem isn't that this is a bad anime. There's good moments, and I honestly would recommend watching the beginning of it. It's that once the opening arc is done, the show is basically done. There's a long section of Monster of the Week style bosses who you go through one from the next, and a little here, a little there. Maybe it's this character's episode to have a bit of characterization. Maybe it's the next character's episode. Sometimes no one gets characterization. Most often than not, even when they get characterization, they don't get characterization. The first few episodes did more when it wasn't focusing on anyone and just building the world to build characterization. And it went like that up until near the very end of the show, where they, spoilers, decided, oh crap, we made a mistake, we should have had plot, but now the show's nearly over and we need to shoehorn it in, so we're going to have a villain who's literally a fucking game show. We're not going to explain it, we're just going to have everyone wake up here. It's going to look like a recap episode, but it's going to be a recap episode that also gives you the entire plot of the show that we should have given you over the last 20 episodes. The ending was rushed, but it looked fine. But the build-up to it was a single fucking episode, which was a recap of what they had done already, and the plot they should have given you because they didn't. They couldn't work it out. They didn't just shoehorn it in there, but they repeated the process with the ball I have previously described, and they did that to the plot. Here's the worst part. It would have been a cool plot if you had discovered over the course of the show with a little bit of mystery here and there and intrigue, and if the characters had stayed in the location of the city where they had built up in the first few episodes. But no, the main characters got on a ship and left. They literally put themselves on a bus. The main characters literally put themselves and the plot of the anime on a bus. And it never came back. The show ended when the plot finally kicked into high gear after the one random recap villain, who then just kind of undid himself because he now had served his purpose by doing exposition and plot. They went back to the city, where the actual plot happened in the beginning. And everything else mattered because nothing else mattered. It's enraging because this is something that showed competence. And then it showed that, I don't know, maybe the animation studio decided halfway through they only need a first 3 episodes that are actually worth watching. The next 20 you can ignore. And as long as you have a good ending, you're fine. And yeah, actually, the ending was half decent. It wasn't great, but honestly, it wasn't the worst one by far. I'm not going to spoil it for that reason alone. I actually think the ending was decent. Would I recommend watching the middle 20 episodes? No, I would recommend watch the first 3, watch the last 3. Yeah, you probably get about as much out of it there as everyone else. This could have been amazing if they had just taken a second, look at who was ever writing the script and go, no, none of that. Get back on your meds. Or off it. Who knows? I don't know what part threw it off, but something threw it off. As much as I love aspects of it, I can't stand the earned failure. Ergo Proxy. A show with a great bunch of potential that they actively decided to work against. Honorable mention. Now, this actually isn't an anime, but in anything I do about rage, this needs to be said. The video game, The Order 1884. I might have got the name wrong. I don't care to correct myself because I hated that thing so much. This was a giant pile of, hey, we have great graphics, which honestly were truly amazing. I was in love with the entire show, game, whatever. And that was the extent of it. The gameplay was wonky at best, or actively painful at worst. The fight scenes were usually button mashing, and I literally mean you were doing QuickTime events that were boring. Boring QuickTime events that you had to get right, so there's no options of QuickTime. You just had to press the button. If you didn't press it, it was wrong, and you had to start over. You had to start all over again. And the story was a giant pile of this doesn't make sense. These characters are stupid. You're trying to be the good guy, but you have actively murdered people who you even acknowledge were innocent, to the point where the monsters killed less people than you did. And you acknowledge this in this freaking game. Fuck this thing. Doesn't fit in this list, but you can't talk about Rage without mentioning this thing. And yes, I am holding a grudge after all of these years, because this was a PS3 game. I am still mad. And finally, we have the #1 rage-inducing anime. Erika 7 AO. Ow. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right, because I don't care to go back and rewatch it enough to find out. I realize I'll have to do that for making this video, but I'm not looking forward to that, so I'm trying to put it off. This is the sequel to Erika 7. Erika 7 was an amazing growing up story set in a fantastical world where horrible things happened, and the main character had to learn to fight through it and become a man under situations that were truly pressing, and having to come to terms with his own pain and the pain of his family, the pain of the world, and confront villains who were larger than life and terrifying, but also sympathetic. And it was good and interesting, and it had great romance aspects, and learning to be such a great person that the show itself is something I would recommend every single time. And then I saw there was a sequel, Erika 7 AO, which was focusing on the son of the main character. And there's always like little questions of, ooh, what's going on? This is the main character's son in normal day Earth, and things are interesting in what's going on. There's a mystery here. No. I mean, that it's a part of it. And overall, it's not even treated badly. This show was rage-inducing, not because of the show itself. I will actually say that Erika 7 AO was good. If taken in a vacuum, if it was not a sequel, I would find it a very fun show with interesting uses of technology, cool fights, interesting characters, some better than others, but never boring, and just generally well done. Maybe not great, but just a very solid, good show that actually tackled some very curious, very interesting philosophical and, science fiction aspects that are really neat, and I'm really glad they touched. Except they did it as a sequel. And in doing so, they shat all over the previous season. Sorry, previous series, because it wasn't a new season. It was literally a completely different show that just happened to say, oh, by the way, we're going to build on how much you loved the last show to make you watch this. It would have been infinitely better without that, because without having been a sequel, it would be a very good show and never would have been on this list. When I say they shat on it, though, I mean literally it ends by saying all the things the main character from the first series, the first Erika 7, Renton and Erika, everything they did, it was all shit. They were wrong. They murdered their entire planet. And now they're trying to kill the main character because they think they're right still. It literally makes them into idiots who murdered everyone, and the villain was right. You should have let them win, and now everyone's dead and you're still an idiot. It's useless. It makes you hate characters you loved. But it's not nearly good enough to make you love the new characters that much either. And it's not earned. You just find out about this at the end. And all the cool build-up? No, it comes down to a fight between the main character from the previous show, who you love, and the main character from the new show, who you are passively enjoying. It doesn't feel good because you hate this. They're literally saying, this previous work we did that was so well received and we did great on, we're going to shit on it because our fans are assholes. Are they really? I don't know. I mean, I'm one of the fans, so they might be accurate just describing me, but that's not a point right now. The point is, they were relying on the popularity of the previous show, Erika 7, to drive popularity for this one. And it probably worked. Unfortunately, instead of continuing and showing what happened, they explicitly said, everybody's dead. It's all useless. The main character is their son. Yeah, okay, there's no mystery there. There's nothing fancy or special. The mystery is like, oh yeah, we went to another world. Then she went back. That was the show. That was a complete mystery. Yeah, wasn't. It really wasn't. This is actually a good anime. If you have never seen Eureka 7. If you had never seen it, infinitely better. If you had, you'd realize they're just doing a giant show to say, hey, everything that you loved about the last series is shit, and we're just going to shit on it even more. Am I using that phrase a little much? No, I'm actually underusing it for how much this show actually did this. Don't acknowledge that it's the same universe as the previous series. It looks so different, it doesn't even come across as that. That's how this feels. This feels like someone had seen the original script and thought, hey, I can make this better. And then they didn't. It just hurts. Every step of the way, it hurts. Because it could have been great. It could have been interesting and fascinating, and if not amazing as a show, it would have been very fun to watch, and I would have gladly recommended it, except the entire twist is everything you loved was shit. And you were wrong to like it. Because it was shit. Because we decided, hey, maybe we should change our mind. Fuck. Okay. Glad I got that off my chest. Actually, no, never mind. I'm actually pissed because I had to relive some of the memories about these shows. If you enjoy this, don't forget the subscribe button. If you really enjoyed it, hit the bell. And yeah, if you like this video, let me know in the comments down below. If this does well, I'll make another. Either anime rage or just anime great moments. Just something along those lines, because I like talking about anime. It's something I'm really passionate about, and I would love to jump right on in, because this is fun, and I enjoy making these. Well, maybe not this one as much. This one actually was rage-inducing, and I feel worse from remembering some of these shows. I'm looking at you, Gilgamesh. You really should have been higher on the list. Yeah, it really should have been. All the same, everyone. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.